Oh shit, it's on.
Hello.
Okay, so this is a Rodent Society Zoom presentation three. Um, yeah, this is Alicia Mujynya. She, in my opinion, is one of the most underrated, underappreciated filmmakers and painters in the United States of America, maybe the entire world. I'm being honest.
Flatter me.
You guys have really enjoyed her work. It's really interesting. She's currently lives in Chicago. And she's doing all sorts of stuff there that has to do with stuff that she does, filmmaking, painting. She's also into archiving. Maybe you'll talk about that, maybe you won't, but it's like analog film archiving. And your work kind of deals with that too. So yeah, right. Anyways,
Yeah, it
uh,
does.
are we recording by the way? Okay, so we're
Yeah.
recording. So we'll go on mute on our end now, and then we'll turn off the camera. And then once that happens, then you can just kind of go.
Great. Okay. Let me just get set up here for a quick sec. Um, whoop. This is my first Zoom presentation ever. So if it's a hot mess, that's why, and we'll just go with it, okay? Okay. Yeah. So I'm Alicia Mujynya. I'm currently in Chicago. I've been here for like a year. I'm in the south part of Chicago. So it's kind of chill, honestly. Lots of space, you know. Um, yeah. Let me just get this set up real quick. Okay. I think you're seeing my screen. Ooh. Oh no, spoilers. Okay. Can everyone hear me? I think so. Yeah. This is a little lady, by the way. Anyways. So yeah, here's my presentation. So I'm gonna show like three films and then talk about some paintings. So these first two films are silent. So if you don't hear anything, you're doing just fine. And honestly, if you find a track that you like that's like the same length as the film, you could play that track at the same time. And it might like link up. This specific film, Light Hole, I've shown it, I think, exclusively at a like live sound event. So it's been played with sound on top of it. I'm just not aware what kind of sound, which is kind of unfortunate. Or you can just explore it, like experience it silent. It has a lot of like previously created media in it that I've produced. And I'll go over it once we've watched it. So yeah. Oop. Let's watch this. Hopefully my internet does not freak out. Okay, that's the film. Let me escape out of here. Okay. Hopefully you can't see my whole screen. That's okay though. Okay. So yeah, that was Light Hole. Um so for some context regarding um this film, it was it was hand processed. So for anyone who doesn't know how like celluloid film works, it's based like it's like a chemical thing. So you have to go into a dark room, you have to reverse it and then like reverse it again to make it like projectable. So most of the time when I was showing this film, like it was actually through a projector, which I think helps silent films a lot, because you hear the roar of the machine behind you and you actually see the light beam moving. I think sometimes it's a little hard to like chill with it like digitally. But yeah, so let me check the next slide. Yes. So for this film, I wanted to really start diving into like reusing materials, but not in the like, oh, I'm gonna recycle this like cup and like staple it on a piece of cardboard, which is cool, but not for this. So I was using on the left, I was using some old images I took from a couple of years prior. And I was sticking them into a kind of copier of sorts, an optical printer that only would take film that's like 16 millimeters wide, whereas my reference film was 35. So I'd do this process where I'd stick this film in halfway and you'd get a very, very like grainy image and you'd be really, really close to like, is it silver? I think it's silver on your strip of film. So this was the reference image. And then certain parts of it were enlarged, like you see on the lower right. Now, something else, like the reason why I named this film Light Hole in the first place, like, yes, there's a hole of light, is that initially when I was filming some of the material, I was just kind of doing this weird thing, which I'll talk about more later, which was like pseudo animation, where I take a film, take a previous film I'd shot, put it on my computer screen, export frames of it, and then like literally put an analog camera in front of the computer screen. So kind of like transferring, like not the most efficient one. I don't know why you want to transfer from digital to analog, unless you're looking for like poor quality, which is like really great. So I ended up shooting some frames of like me in like the bathtub cleaning like a few months prior, and I had a light behind me when I was doing that, so it ended up being in the center of the image, kind of destroying the image, but I was like, that's nice. So I ended up creating a short animation with it, not animation but like printing, well, how do I explain this? I ended up developing the film in that camera, then scanning it, then printing out images from that, then using that as a basis for all these other compositions, like superimposing things. And then like out of the blue one time, I think the chemicals were going really old because I was using them. A lot of people were using them. They were like brown, like really gross. I ended up with this image like on the bottom, where I had developed a lot of film, like copies of copies, and there were just specks all over it. It was initially a negative, so those light holes were actually like black holes, like they're like black specks all over my film, and that was like amazing. I was like, beautiful, all stuck together. And yeah, that's kind of what I have to say about this film. I enjoy it. It's a little slow. I showed it to I had the chance to show it to Larry Gottheim, who's a like experimental filmmaker. I think he had some origins in Binghamton. I think he did actually. That's where I went to college. And he said it reminded him of his old work. which was like, I was like, oh, that's kind of a compliment, kind of not, because a lot of the older filmmakers ended up moving on to digital when that was an option, because like film was the only thing they could use for a very long time. So yeah, that's Lighthole. Let me know if you have any questions at the end. Okay, and we're going to go on to my current film that I've been showing for the last year and a half. I recently showed it in Chicago for Peripheries Film Fest. It was specifically a section for Chicago filmmakers. Yeah, and it's called, let me know if I'm going too fast. It's called Forgetting French #1, because I plan on doing more. 8 years from Nadia. It's a bit wordy, but it gets the point across. It is digital and analog, kind of working off my previous work, but obviously not the same thing. So this one is a sound film. So put that sound up. Ideally, turn the lights off, although I'm in a bright room, so maybe don't be like me. Yeah, and let's watch this. Hopefully it loads properly. I gotta unmute myself, sorry.
Santé. Alors, des fois.
On va pas trop tarder là. Pour les femmes à la maison, quoi. Les poussettes, j'avais 2 poupées. Ça, c'est mamie qui a tout gardé. J'avais un Moïse, et c'est devenu une corbeille. Je ne sais pas si tu te souviens, une corbeille ovale comme ça. Et je mettais toujours mes cotons ou de la laine dedans.
Non, moi je me souviens d'une ronde comme ça.
Oui, ça c'est la ronde que j'avais où j'avais vos affaires de toilette.
Si tu vois quelque chose aussi près. Une couleur brune. Les yeux foncés comme les tiens.
Ah ben.
Oui. Oui, mais Max, on est en train de manger.
Ouais.
Pas attendre ça, faire ça. Dès qu'on aura fini le plat, là. Hey, yes, that was that one. So what do I have to say about this film? I've tried writing about it, and I found it very difficult and frustrating. Like providing a very good description of the film. I feel like paintings. It's nice to just see the painting before you get a description of it. But yes, this film is in French. Because these tapes were shot in Switzerland by my dad. In first, the oldest tape in there is from 1997 or 8. One of those. I think 1998. It's the opening shot with the little baby and the woman, Nadia, my mom, and my dad, like way on the side. And then it's called 8 years from Nadia because it's a range of 8 years worth of tapes. And there's a lot more. I wish I brought the bag of tapes into the room. I didn't. But there's like an interesting story behind that. Our house was being like foreclosed upon when I was a senior. Not cute. But like there were always tapes underneath our TV that kind of got dusty and like gross over time. And I would always look at them and they'd be written in French. And I was just like, what are these? And I was like, I wasn't old enough to be like, oh, I can look at these by putting them into like a camcorder and then like having it viewed that way. I just didn't know how to do that anymore because everything had gone digital at that point. So once I went to college, I was able to like gain access to these like tape decks for transferring, and I'm suddenly like, I can do this, like especially because I was doing it kind of during work sometimes, but I was like, oh, I can actually view what's on here, like instead of just being like, well, I'll just keep them for myself and just like send them off to someone and pay like hundreds and hundreds of dollars to get them transferred. So that's like the basis of this film are these like DV tapes, so like this big, this thick. And I'm sure like a lot of people my age and older like remember what these are or were shot on these. Yeah, so more into the transferring over transfer, like I feel like doing that was a way of me like disconnecting myself from the material almost and trying to find something new within it, but it's just not the case. Like whenever I try to write about this, like I get just as emotional now as I was probably like, I don't know what I was saying. I just get like emotional even though I've really abstracted certain people and things like kind of out of existence, not really existence. So like this screenshot of my computer just a couple hours ago of like the baby's face, that's me in the bathtub, with the hand like wiping it, that was produced through first getting the tape and being like, oh, this is kind of cool, and like I've never seen this before. Taking out like every other frame, I believe. Sometimes it was like every fourth frame, or sometimes it was all of them, which was a really bad idea, like horrible. It was taking those out, putting them on my laptop, shooting them. I believe this one was processed as a negative, so the image was reversed and then I think transferred onto a different film. So I was able to kind of get rid of the background, and it was just kind of like kind of like a face, and like I think it was something having to do with the exposure of the film I was using to recopy it. I think it was like high contrast, so not exposure, contrast. And I used that a lot. Initially, I had the idea of like actually taking out the babies, not in like a like it might have been a little too on the nose, but somehow through processing, removing like the children, so it's just like hands and arms. But that I didn't end up going that direction, but that was my intent. But back to the screenshot. So there's a lot of them that just say observance. Now it may be spelled wrong. I can't tell. And I would just like export like crazy. I'd be like in Premiere, just like I'd just keep going. And then I would go into Photoshop, create these grids. I'm sure there's a very easy way to do it. I have no idea. So I just make all these grids of like sometimes 12 images at a time, sometimes 6, and then print them out on like a school like computer printer or something I just had access to. So the quality would degrade, and then I'd typically shoot it on a digital video, frame by frame, reanimate that. And then, yeah, so that's how I would end up with like this thing on the lower right, was you can see the grain of the paper, as well as some specks. And then like I would just layer like physically those papers on top. Sometimes they'd be like pieces of like plastic with like printing on them, and I'd layer them, and then reshoot them. And maybe if I was frustrated in the lab that day, I'd be like smushing stuff because I was just like stressed out. Like this image in the center, I named it actually desert for some reason in my files. And I would just like shoot those, layer them. And yeah, that's a lot of this film is just layering, printing, copying, getting annoyed, doing it again. And I never aligned the sound except at the beginning, because it just wasn't possible for me to align the sound. So yeah, rant over. Okay, next film. This is a very short film. This is my first 16mm film. I had shot it over the course of like 2 nights with some mirrors, by myself in my bedroom. These are zip codes from areas I lived in New Mexico because I'm from there. And yeah, it's silent. So if you find a track that's like a minute and a half, if you want some like entertainment or like ooh connections, I recommend it. But yeah, let's play that. I'm gonna mute myself too. Okay, that was the film. Oh no. Yeah, so that was, I'm gonna try to say it really well. 87505, 87508, 87501, 87507. I think I said it right. This one's a little more like not the same. I'm definitely not doing the current techniques I'm doing now. I am doing a lot of like superimposition. I don't know. I personally I like this film because it kind of displays like some of the ideas I had about like dance and the body, and kind of goes into the paintings I'm going to whew, the water go over soon. Yeah, let me see. Um, yeah, I was exploring a lot of stuff about like light, because that's how we see. Well, that's really intelligent, but it is how we see. We need light or we cannot see, and the camera especially. Like if you do not have enough light, there's nothing, which is kind of nice. But yeah, I was just doing a lot of layering. I like film, so yeah. Okay, let's get into other things. So why did I put that? Okay, this was from between when I was making Forgetting French and like Light Hole. I was getting a little sentimental, which I feel like everything I do is like connected to things I maybe was not aware of, but like, are you really aware of things when they're happening? No. So this is like a collage I did of some like crappy film scans from that are very mediocre, but I kind of liked. And like the writing on top of them. There's also this little image at the top, which is the first images I saw from those tapes, which I referred to one film ago. And yeah, some like ways I was thinking at the time. So, okay, disintegration of media. I kind of went over this. A lot of copies over copies over copies because I think they're nice, and I think honestly I think it's really beautiful stuff that's really been torn apart, but not in like a, oh that's so cool, like it's hard for me to explain. It's not, maybe I don't know what aesthetic means, but I'm not trying to use these materials in a manner that's um just like surface level, like, oh I like the look of like film because it's old timey, or I like the crumpled paper because crumpling is cool. I don't know how to explain this. It's kind of just like, it's kind of just how I am, just yeah. Okay, to the paintings. I actually brought some paintings here. I ran out into my second room and grabbed some. So this is the middle one. This is a, I thought I had it upside down. It's probably backwards for you guys. It is. That's okay. This is a chunky man, chunky dude. I thought I would bring this up here because a lot of my paintings, and some of them are on the screen, I'll show more, have a lot to do with like, I'm not purposefully trying to draw the figure. I don't really have interest in portraiture. But like just like naturally that just happens. And I feel like that goes back into my films as well, in that like I'm not trying to make something sentimental or nostalgic, if that's the same thing. It just is how it is. And I really, really like texture. I like layering stuff on top of each other. Ozzy, who's club this is, not club, group this is, society, he got me back into painting when we met in Santa Fe. And like was it oil sticks? Those are amazing. I love those. Like this one, like this yellow, I love myself an oil stick. Very expensive material, but just really great. And like you're just there with the canvas and you just exist. I think that's beautiful in all kinds of like media and art, is just existence. And then looking back upon it, and then you kind of start to understand, but not really, because like you can't really know. But yeah, so this image on the left, sorry, is an earlier painting, and I personally think there's like many faces in it. I don't have any names for any of these pieces, but I do know I like the color red. I have a lot of red because it's a very common color. If you get any like recycled paints, you'll find some like kind of red all the time. And then painting on the right of this image is kind of going back into like, how do I explain this? The material sense, like reusing things and not like a reuse recycle sense, even though that is true. I just needed to paint really bad, and I was just like angry at the image on underneath that I was working on. So I took some paper from like a shoebox and I made this weird little square thing and I put it in the back. And then I was just like, let me just keep stapling and stapling. And then I started painting this like, I think it's a human ish, not really. It's like a creature. And it has more oil stick on it. And I love how the oil just like gets all over the place. Like it makes it kind of nasty, but I think it's beautiful. Oh my god, my cat just fell. Okay. Oh, this is another one. Oh wait, well, this is the painting. It is. It actually looks way better here. It looks way better. I need to get a proper camera. So this is a current one. Sorry. I hope you don't feel like I'm doing like art selling because it's not my intention. This is, oh my god. This boy is purple because I have a lot of blues and whites and reds currently. And I think there's like, it's not done. There's like a lot of people, not people. I don't want them to be people, but I feel like it's just like, I feel like that's a good description of a lot of things. Let me see. And I thought I would, let me show one more current painting. I've been kind of in a weird existence recently where, oh my god, this one's still wet. Oh my god, why did I do that? I've been using a lot of blue, not in like the mood blue, just like, I'm like, I don't use blue. Let's use blue. This one's not exactly there. It's a little too figurative. Just like in my films, like I don't want to have someone really speaking, explaining stuff. Like that's just not me. But yeah, and I guess my last slide is right here. These are two little paintings. I have them up and I don't want to take them down that I've had for a couple years and I just really love them. I don't really have anything else to say about them besides like I think they're beautiful. And yeah, that's what I love. Okay. That is the end of my talk. If you have anything you'd like to say, please ask. Any like discussions? Yeah.
First and foremost, thank you so much. That was honestly incredible. I was just jotting down some notes too during the presentation. I guess I'll just open the floor if anyone has any questions. Why ask this question?
Yeah.
Right now, you just said, like, talking about your current work, saying how it's too figurative. And I like the analogy of saying, like, relating it to film and talking about how you don't want, like, a narrator, like, spelling things out. But I guess it's a half-baked question, but if you're not expressing, is it still like a formal expression or like are you still using form, things like that? Or is it more like, I guess, subconscious elements of like the visual things like color or composition? Like what do you kind of, the medium within the medium, what do you kind of focus on?
Like, what do I, sorry, I got a little confused. What do I focus on with my materials? Is that what you said?
No, like you were talking about how it's too figurative.
Oh, okay. Yes, the paintings.
Like things like form or whatever. Like, what's kind of how you express these ideas that you have?
Oh man, I really don't understand the end. I'm sorry, I have a hearing problem. Can you say the end again? Can someone say? I'm so sorry. Okay.
Like, if you're not, basically, if it's like if you're not using form, what are you using? Like express the.
Yeah, so he's just asking if you're not using form, then what are you using? Like, what is what you're coming from, deriving from? I guess you're saying,
I guess
Is this like, it's not figurative?
yeah,
Is it?
yeah, okay. If it's not figurative form, like if you're not after the figure and being like using representation in that sense, then
what am I?
yeah.
If it's not,
Yeah.
that is a good question.
Is it color based? Is it? I guess you kind of did answer that sense, but yeah.
I think it's more like that's a hard question because now I'm like, how is it not figurative if it's not if I'm saying there's figures in it, you know? But I feel like, especially in these newer paintings I'm doing, it's more just like thickness based almost. Like yes, there's the shapes in this dimension, but there's also like the angles. You know what I mean? And like if my thickness of my paint doesn't feel right and doesn't have like a body to it, the figure, then like it's not complete yet, you know, like there's not enough crevices. I'm getting a little off subject, but like that's kind of how I determine where I'm going with something is the like not the clayness of it, like the plasticity, but kind of like does it feel right? Is it flat? Like I don't know how to it's hard to explain really, and I should probably write more about that, but that's a very interesting statement and question you posed. Yeah, hope I answered it.
Anything else on the question in there?
Yeah, I love the question more like I guess comment. I think it's what you're trying to make is feeling and like emotion rather than just like trying to write words. Why it's hard to write the words because you're not making literal pieces. You're making these evocative, like emotional, like senses. Like you're capturing this like sense of emotion or the space you're trying to create. Not necessarily like you're not writing a person with a hat and a hat. Not like something easily described like that. And you're using that through like texture and like thickness, like depth, like line fields, which I think is why it's like not figurative, but honestly figurative is fine anyway, like form and space, like that's not or like your way to create it. And I do have a question. I guess one question would be in relation to your film, do you plan to use more of your paintings for your films, or is this like an exploration related to your filmmaking, or do you think it's like two separate things?
So I think I didn't show this film, but I have used like kind of painting. Like I used to be like, oh, I want to do animation. Like proper, like had like the digital thing and I was like it's like it's a lot. Like good for those people. But yeah, I mean ideally I want to merge both. And I've really considered it like of course, not in a very smooth sense, like very smooth animation. I know there's some oil painting films out there that are like gorgeous. It's not what I want to do, but yeah, like I want to start to maybe use some more painting in there because there's more to be discovered within the paint outside of the painting. I don't know how to explain that. Just like with the perspective, how you're even feeling. Are you like wearing your glasses? Looking at something like that's really interesting to me, and yeah, ideally I want it to like be like one thing, you know, even though one is time-based, one's not time-based at all, and it's really dependent on the environment that you have it in. Same thing with films, to be fair. So yeah.
Anyone else have a question? Sydney has a question.
Okay, so I have this friend, and one time she said to me, like, she's still on film, and one time she said to me, like, that the reason she likes working with film so much is that it's a lot like painting. It's like the photography form of painting. And so I just was kind of wondering, like, do you like feel similarly about working with film, and like, does the process of working with film like really inspire your work? Like, or and how does the process of working with film inspire your work?
Like so your friend finds painting to be filmmaking to be like painting, and
Yes.
those like go into a circle or not, or like a diagonal. Is that what you're saying, kind of?
Yes,
Um,
and also like how does like the physical tactile process of working with film influence your movies?
yes. So I find that like, I mean, obviously they're two different things. Very clever. But see, I feel like filmmaking is very like, for me, kind of like stressful, especially since it's like, yes, both of them, especially analog film, is linked to money, right? So if you don't have enough money for film and processing, you're kind of fucked. And but that's true for painting as well, right? So when I like work with like physical film, I kind of, I mean, it is kind of similar in a way. Like, especially if you're working with oils, you can scrape that crap off kind of, and then you get a ghost of an image, right? Same thing with film. You can keep doing stuff, and then you're like, wait a second, that was interesting, but I don't remember what I was doing. Like, I might be getting off subject, but that's kind of like how they're kind of similar to each other and like kind of smushy. And yeah, I don't know. I think I'd need to write some more about that to know exactly, or if I don't know, to form something of that question. But it was a really great question. Yeah.
Thank you. And I agree. They're both kind of squished.
Thank you. Um,
Anyone else have any comments or questions in the room? I have and I guess, all right, I'll open it up to the Zoom. People, if anyone in the Zoom has a question, feel free. I'll give you 10 seconds.
yes. Zoom beings. Anyone? You just fire on the cam if you want, just like, you know.
Well, I have one comment though I wanted to make.
Yeah.
You were talking about, like when you were talking about the slide about the disintegration of media, and it's just about how you don't like using film because it's like this old thing, or crumbled paper because it's like crumbled paper and that looks cool. When you're talking about aesthetics, and it made me think about like just when I'm working and I'm thinking of aesthetics kind of philosophically, and I make this distinction within aesthetics between prettiness and beauty. And to me, I'm not after something that's pretty. And to me, I equate prettiness is synonymous with like superficiality, to something that's like candy, you know? It maybe tastes good after a bite, or it's like, you know, superficially pleasing. But when you're making like whether it's architecture or just whatever, what you're really after is something that's like about truth, right? That has some sort of substance, like deeper substance to it, and that I equate to beauty, and that's kind of different than prettiness. And I think maybe that's what you're talking about when you're talking about like aesthetics and sort of what you're after with your films. And I feel that with your films, I mean, you're trying to not solve a problem, but there's some sort of like thing you're trying to like reconcile with, right? And it's personal. It's like very personal, which is really interesting. But yeah, like I just wrote down, like as architects, we're using means of representation to convey information. And like, I don't really give a shit. Sorry for cursing. I don't really give a shit about like a pretty image in architecture, like a pretty site plan, or like it's like a means of representation in architecture, like a site plan or a section or whatever, or an axonometric. I don't really care about something that's pretty. I want something that gives me the information, you know, like I just want to know the information of this thing. And it's something, it's interesting because I'm kind of relating this to art and your artistic process, but I don't know, it's relevant to architecture and design, this idea of just making something that conveys information. I don't care about at least me, I don't care about prettiness. I just want like the thing, like substance. Like,
Would you say, oh, sorry, go ahead.
the songs.
Would you say beauty to you is fascination? I feel like that's at least to me, between prettiness and beauty, is that beauty is linked to fascination, whereas prettiness is like, or like obsession. Prettiness is maybe more just there, you know what I mean? Like that's a cute pair of shoes, but like, oh, I thought it was a weird thing to say. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I feel like beauty to me is like fascination, just like it's in you when you're like, I can't stop doing this, or I really need to do this. That's what it is to me. Yeah. Yeah, I thought I'd just respond to your comment.
Yeah. Anyone else? Well, okay, I don't think anyone else has anything to say, but I will just conclude and say thank you. That was awesome. And then if anyone is interested in your work, I'm sure all your films are on Vimeo, right?
They're actually mostly privated because of my job. I don't want kids looking at my stuff. I'm gonna actually write my Instagram really quick in my slides.
Okay, yeah, so
That's where you can find me. Alternative jacket. I'm dyslexic, so if I wrote alternative wrong, you gotta correct that yourselves. Or you can email me if you want to do the old school way. I don't get a lot of emails anymore. That's my email, Alicia Mujynya at gmail.com. Like, send me something. Send me hate. Just kidding. Okay, anyways, I'm gonna stop sharing or not. I don't know. Thanks for coming and hearing me yap. Peace and love. Drink some whole milk. I love milk. Okay. I don't know how to get out of this. Okay. Stop sharing.